by the end of this video, I promise you will feel a lot more clued up, reassured, and ready to go for your 2025 forecast readings. If you want to book in with me, I've got my calendar down there in the video description. Choose your date and you will receive your reading by that time and date. Yearly forecast readings are probably one of my very favourite readings to do. I think they are the most impactful. I also think it's a very nice time of the year to do a reading in general because you're at that point processing last year but preparing for the next year and you want some guidance. You might feel a little bit in limbo. I think this time of year, if everyone just feels a little bit weird. We're expected to make all these grand, crazy resolutions, but we're also expected to slow down. Though it's my favourite, it can also look like one of the most intimidating spreads of the lot. 13 cards even, because if you count the one in the middle, is a lot of cards. Though it might look intimidating and unachievable, I'm here to tell you it doesn't have to be. We're going to go through the 12 cards together. We're going to perform some fake example yearly forecast readings that you can kind of follow along with at home if you want to pull your own cards for your own 12 months of the year, including the 13 card in the center, ready to go for your 2025 forecast readings. You can even do this in 2026, 2027, hopefully this is going to be helpful for whatever dimension you're living in right now. First things first, you want to get your favourite deck, and there's no right or wrong way to do this. You could do it on the top of a mountain, you can do it on your table of many candles, or you can just do it in your crusty dusty apartment that smells a bit funny. There is no spiritual right or wrong. They are 78 pieces of cardboard. Let's chill out, yeah? First rule, chill out. These readings are supposed to be empowering. The minute you feel disempowered or paralyzed and scared and unsure is the minute it's not doing its purpose. I think a lot of people fall into that trap of, if I don't like what I see, I'm stuck with that for life. The future is concrete. This is my destiny. What is the point of doing a reading for ourselves if we are just gonna experience what we see in the cards in that reading in real life again, exactly as we envisioned it? There will be no point. We'll just be experiencing it again, but in reality. See the cards as a guideline, a few signposts of maybe where your energy is drifting off to. Do you like what you see? Great, continue on the path that you're doing, because this is based on the energy that you're currently giving out. If you don't, great, the cards are doing their job. Take this conversation that you're having with the cards, because that's what it's going to kind of feel like. Imagine you going to a coffee shop to meet with a friend and talk about life right now, and if she's giving you cold, harsh truths about how you're living a life you don't currently care about or isn't what you intended for, if she's seeing things that you're currently not seeing, just take it as something you can consider. That's it. You don't have to cry in a hole. Your friend's not going to make sure all of those things she thinks might happen will happen. They are just merely suggestions. See tarot cards as like a bossy auntie, and they tend to point their fingers every so often. Now that's cleared, you want to shuffle the deck. I used to, back in the day, shuffle until a card came out. So I would intentionally know. That's the thing, you just want to be intentional about everything. It doesn't matter how you do it, it's about knowing what you're about to do. You can say it out loud, you think in your head, you can write maybe it down. I've known some people do that. Hey, I'm doing a 2025 forecast reading, 12 cards. Let's start with January, let's finish in December. And I would shuffle, I mean, it would take me a while because flyers don't happen too often. And sometimes no card will come out for that month, so I had to kind of pull it out. There we go. So that would be my January, and I'd put that up to the top, and then I'd shuffle again and wait till my February. If more than one card came out, sometimes I would take like 3 cards for March, but most of the time I put it back in and ask for that card again. Another way of doing it, you want to give a good shuffle. Sometimes I split the deck in half, maybe even in 3, so shuffle that pile and then I shuffle this pile. Like, there's no doubt about the fact I'm shuffling this pile. Sometimes you want to do a waterfall shuffle, which is you just take 2 halves. Some people don't like bending their deck, so they might not want to do that. And when you're ready, when it feels good, you can either take that deck as it is and just go Feb, March, or you can cut the deck 3 times. So you take the pile down to your left, and then with your left hand, the arm connected to your heart, depends if you want to go into all of that, cut once from the pile and then twice from the second pile, and then you put that pile together in whatever order you want. Most people choose for the middle pile to be the one on the top. Others will just say, meh, whatever, let's go. I think the more you add your energy into the reading, so if you're quite like a chaotic, fiery type person, then shuffle that way. Like, make it your own stamp. So you want to keep pulling the cards around a circle until you hit 12, because obviously there's 12 months of the year, and then you want to finally shuffle for your center card. This one, I for some reason feel quite strongly about letting the card that falls out be your center card. It just feels reassuring for some reason for me. You can still pull it out if you want. You can even have the 13th card after the 12 you just pulled directly put in the center like that, if you ask for that, if you intend for that. But for me, I intend for 12, and then I take the deck, freshly shuffle it, and I say, please give me a overall card. This will kind of be a card that the rest of the 12 cards will be talking to, referring with. Oh, that's a lovely card, actually. I'm happy with that. Now all the cards are laid out. This is the exciting part. This is the, well, it's all exciting, but it's the fact that you, and not many people do this at this time of year, let alone generally, just stop. Just have a little think about what your life currently looks like. Mostly busy, involved with right now. What's heavy in the air? Like, is there a lot of work going on? Maybe your love life is pretty hot right now. A lot to be excited for and fiery about. Maybe there's travel in the air because you're making plans for travel in the new year, but you've also had some really cool experiences in the previous year. Maybe it's that things are just dry all over right now. Just deep in work, you've got a lot to do. There's a big to-do list. All you can think about and do is make sure your kids are still alive by the end of the day, and you feel like a little bit of a shell of a person. You want to just be very factual and on the nose about how things look, and I think the more honest you can be about that, the more impactful the reading will be, because you want to leave your bias at the door. With any kind of reading you do, my biggest tip is to just face the facts, bro. Especially if you're doing this reading by yourself, you've got absolutely nothing to hide. Let's just face life for what it is right now, the mess, the beauty, all of it. And I think that will nicely lead you to, you know, what feelings are coming up in consequence to that. Is it the life that you expected to have in this year? Do you feel proud? Do you feel accomplished? Are you just downright mad that you didn't achieve any of the things that you wanted to? So how do you want life moving forward to look? And this is when it becomes clear about why I'm asking you to do this, because once you're aware of how life actually looks, you can become more aware of how you want life to look, aka how you want the rest of the year to look. You want your forecast ideally to be reflecting back all of those elements, all those parts of your life that mean a lot to you. If things seem pretty cushy right now, you know what makes you happy and content. Either way, you've got a better idea how you want your life to look. So elements in tarot, if you don't already know, tarot is built up of pentacles, which are coins, in other words, wands, which are those stick-looking things, cups, which are the gold shiny cups, and swords. And they're all going to represent different facets of your life. So looking at how balanced your forecast is a good start, I think. In this reading, for example, we've got a good, I would say, healthy mix, and I guess healthy is the wrong term because you might want an imbalance, as in if you're looking for love in 2025, you're probably going to want to see a load of different cups. However, I don't know, you could argue that too much of anything is bad, and you should also make sure your work's in check and your home's in check, otherwise you're going to probably end up in a bit of a mess by 2026. But hey, it's a preference, I suppose. For this, I would say, you know, there's 3 coin cards, there's 2 cup cards, there's only 1 wand, and there's a few what's called major arcana cards, which is when a card will say something like the Lovers, the Devil, the Tower, the Moon. It's not 8 of cups or 2 of coins. And they're just picture cards, if you want to call it that. Some people believe that if you have a major arcana card, they mean big event cards for a lot of people. Not necessarily for me. I'm not going to dive too much into the differences between them and the minor arcana cards, which are these. If you find that you've got a whole lot of coins, expect a lot of career changes, maybe career decisions, career progress potentially, especially if you've got high-end coins. So if you've got cards showing like the 10 of coins, the 9 of coins, the 8 of coins. They're all going to represent hard work and progress around money, health, the house, even the home. I think the fact health is kind of sandwiched in with the work and finance element. It's a little bit complicated, I'm aware, but kind of see it as all of the basics in life, the base, the table legs of your life. And obviously, if you haven't got health, you've got nothing. Like, you can't do all of the other wonderful things in life. So see it in that way. If you're finding you've got a lot of cups are all about feelings and emotions. It's usually other people being in your life, maybe a special somebody, or maybe quite a lot of friends. So if you're a social person and you're seeing a lot of cups coming up, then probably to be expected. Or perhaps consider the fact that some people make a lot of life choices and navigate through their year with emotional choices. They don't really act from the head. It's more so in the heart. So if you're a Cancer or a Pisces, Scorpio, those kinds of people, leads with gut and not really logic, you can probably expect to see a lot of cups because your heart kind of rules the ship. Swords as well generally are quite quick cards because they are the element of air. Remember what I said about the cups? Decision makers by feeling. The swords is very much going up the body and into the head. Have you ever watched a movie where the main character gets distracted by a love interest? As soon as emotions get involved, it gets messy. They get off the point. All of a sudden, they care about maybe their morals. It's all about heavy mental stimulation. So you might have a lot of learning to do, lots of reasons to have to use your brain. So you're taking in new information. It also can be in communication as well. So it's a very intellectual type suit. And sometimes it's not always good, healthy communication. You want to see what the characters are doing with each other amongst that. So if they look like they're in disagreement, as humans, we can mess up from time to time. And if you look at, for example, the Page of Swords, the page is a child and she's holding a sword. So how does a child interact with communication, or even like the way that children think? They might not be as healthy as a mature adult who can think before they speak. They might end up getting involved with gossip, and a lot of people do get a bit scared when I see the swords cards, which makes me laugh because actually I argue it's one of the only suits that we are in the most control of, because ultimately it's our mind, right? And psychologists, therapists will tell you that people's lives, their reality is controlled by their brain, the way that they think, the support systems they have in their head, whatever they believe they are, whatever they hold so strongly true. If you have heavy wands in your reading, it's usually quite a creative suit, deep in hobbies and your interests, or you're just going to feel very passionate about work. If you think about how you feel when you're doing something creative, so there's excitement in the year, it could be conflicting with other people, or maybe there's just too much of it, it's uncontrollable. Have you ever seen fire when it's out of control? The best kind of fire that we need in our lives is a well-controlled flame that we can make use of when it's there and feel its benefits and take it to where it needs to go. When it gets bigger and out of control, that's when it becomes counterproductive. If you're seeing a lot of swords, you can expect quite a quick feeling year. That's the other thing. Maybe take in a bit of the flow that's happening as you gaze through January, February, March. Does it look chaotic, fast, quick? No one's ever sitting still, like you're on a mission in all of these cards. Is that the kind of year you set out to achieve? Perhaps this is a little bit of a reminder that you need to make sure you're not burning yourself out this time around. We have someone standing here on the go, sitting down here focused on work and maybe fine-tuning on some skills, working towards a promotion or something. And they're up again here, productive, quite similar to that one, productive. So maybe even though he is sitting down, he's still doing a lot of mental work and physical work of his hands. They're on the move again here, he's sitting down again here. So I feel like this person's definitely busy. There's not the Hierophant cards or the Empress card where they're sitting back relaxing, or Nine of Pentacles where she's taking in all of the riches, the successes that she's created for herself. This person is on the move and busy and distracted even, preoccupied. And it's funny I use the word distracted there, because that's what it feels like happens towards the end of the year. If you look at this Lovers card, when people tend to get involved with any matters connected to the heart, that's when we tend to get distracted. A fresh new number 1 comes in. That's a new cycle. If you think about how there's only 1 to 10 in tarot, 1 means it's the start of something, of course. 10, it means the end. It's the end of a cycle. 1 of hearts, which is 1 of cups, 1 of love, comes in, touches upon a matter of the soul, something that is deep and meaningful to this person, because the Lovers card is about everything associated to what matters most to this person at this time. And it turns into the Devil and the Tower and the Moon. These are quite deep, meaningful cards. There's a kind of pivot that happens here that potentially could be associated to a distraction. So we want to make note of maybe what months get in between that change where things start going a little bit downhill. Maybe there's a little bit of a nosedive. Can we pick which part of the year that is? I also argue that June isn't closed off to July. So just because something shows up in June doesn't mean you're not going to get some aspects bleeding into July from June. The months are what we have created as humans. Like, we've separated months off in that way, but actually naturally things are just in flow. We've just created, you know, the 30th of June to be very different from the 1st of July, when actually there's just a few hours in between. That's why I like to see it as winter, spring, summer and fall instead, because that way you give a little bit more wiggle room, because there's not really a knockoff point so much. But anyways, make note of where that shift happens. Like, where's the spanner in the works? Does there seem to be something that sets the rest of the tone off in a direction that doesn't feel of value to you? Maybe make a mental note of that, or write it down somewhere, take pictures. Absolutely, you will forget pretty much everything that you've discovered in the short amount of time you do these readings. Oh, I forgot to include the center card, obviously, as a cup 1 as well. So they may have a little bit cup heavy. You can kind of take that to mean spending quite a majority of like 40% of the year thinking about how you feel and trying to come to terms with what that actually is, trying to figure out how you feel about maybe it's work or home life or your family, whatever the situation is. Because I mean, when I take all these cup cards, they don't look necessarily certain until the Ace of Cups here. I think an Ace card always looks very clear in like a light bulb type moment, rather than the foggy uncertainty that comes with 7 of them at once. When it's 1, you know what you're getting a bit more, whatever that thing might be. There's 2 swords here, so that adds some balance again. So the only thing I would maybe say is lacking are the wands. And the only wand card this person does have is quite a burden to them. So their passion, their energy, their enthusiasm and their drive is there, but it's maybe not channeled anywhere in particular. Like, it doesn't feel productive. Energy and drive, it just feels scattered, and it can't actually get them very far in the grand scheme of things. But I think mostly the important thing is the middle card when it comes to starting off. So you're going to expect a lot of that energy. So can you in any way relate that to the kind of year that you were hoping for? In this instance, if the last 3 years of my life has felt very lost and I've been a bit confused about what I want, and I don't really know where I want to settle in terms of my career, and I got a card with a load of clouds in and what seems to be different options, maybe that person's kind of like raising their arm in like awe about how many different routes they can take. Like, it doesn't look very decisive. So I can ask myself why that might be. Like, is that predictable for me? Is that unexpected? What can I do differently today and going forward to channel some of my direction so I don't feel clouded? Are there certain options I can cross off altogether going into the new year? How can I get off the fence a little bit and be a bit more certain and sure about what it is that I need in a career, in a job? Rejig my priorities a little bit so that I'm not overwhelmed by so many different options, and I can say, no, actually, this over here is a lot more what I'm looking for. But that's not the only way you should consider the center card. You've also got to always consider it when you're focused on other areas of the year too. So if I was to take the 10 of Wands, for instance, that looks like heavy burden. That's like having a lot on your plate, a lot on your back. Maybe other people's responsibilities are in your lap for some reason. So because I have so many options and I'm not really condensing myself down to 1 or 2 ideas, it means I'm taking the lot. and I'm biting off more than I can chew in consequence because I don't really know what it is exactly I want, and therefore I can't channel my energy. Maybe see if you can notice any similarities to the center card to any of the different months and see if they're possibly talking to each other. Do they look really similar, really different, and why? Could you figure that out from looking at maybe the card previous to the one that looks similar to it and after the card that looks similar to it? We can also take that practice into our forecast reading by looking at the good and bad cards. And I would always argue, most people saying there's no good and bad in tarot, blah blah blah, but let's face it, there are cards we'd rather see more than others in our year to come. A year is a long time. We don't want to have to deal with the same shit for 12 whole extra months. So if we're seeing quite a few cards that we think, oh my god, we're gonna have to focus on them for a little bit. And the same goes with the good cards. You want to look at months that you maybe know something's happening. So have you got a birthday month? Obviously. I don't know why I said that. Is there a good card in that one? Maybe a month where you know you're going to be moving house. Right, okay, that looks promising. Or maybe it doesn't. The point still stands that you, in some way, shape or form, has allowed that energy in. This case, January, that looks like a kind of card I would probably want to see if I knew that I was going on or hoping to go on a kind of trip in January. He's walking away from something. So if I knew I had commitments coming up in January and I was trying to settle down and I'm seeing a card where the character is literally walking away, you can use your common sense and be like, maybe there's some change of heart, particularly as it is a cup card and that's about the heart and emotions. What could that possibly be? Is there something that I feel intuitively looking at that it could be pointing to? Is it a sword card where there's heavy mental stuff happening? Do you slip into old habits around mental health? Is that likely something you've done through slipping up on some discipline that you and your therapist spoke through? Maybe your mental health takes a little bit of a nosedive when you don't go on your regular walks, you don't go outside enough, or you don't socialize enough. It's helpful to look at what came before that card. For instance, the Eight of Pentacles, which is about knuckling down, doing the hard work, getting things done, working really hard for a promotion, just trying to impress someone, going the extra mile, comes directly before a card that I don't like, which is the Ten of Wands. It's having heavy responsibility and feeling the weight of the world on your back. It's maybe having more than your fair share. It's having other people's responsibilities on your plate. So is that a pattern I usually get myself into? Do I usually bite off more than I can chew? Wanting to aim for too much? Like, do I burn out easily? Has this happened before? Like, how can you relate to some of the stories that you're picking apart from this reading? Because that's one of the biggest essential parts of forecast readings. This is of any reading actually that involves a past, present and future. It is telling a story. There's a narrative happening. If you're drawn to tarot but it feels a lot because there's a lot of definitions, just view it as a picture book, a book without any writing. We've all done that before as a child. There's few of us that maybe read comic what are they called, illustrative novels, illustration novels, what are they called, like picture novels. The point being, give it a good guess through body language, through colour. If you love art, you're aware that to view art, you've got to take in the entire canvas. Everything's done for a reason. It's meticulous. What is their body language saying? What's their facial features meaning? What colours are they wearing? What's the weather doing? How is that making the character feel emotionally? It's a direct reflection of the character. So the animal, the weather, the colour, the element. Is there lots of water? Water means emotions. Is the character touching that water in any way, or are they far away from the water? What are they doing with the cups in their hand, the coins in their hand? Everything is with purpose. I think as well it helps us know how we're going to deal with the bad card, because if I was to get Seven of Cups, for instance, the cloudy, lack of clarity, dreamy-eyed, like, ooh, shiny card in front of, like, before a Two of Swords, which is about making a good decision. If we're in a place that has a lot of clouds in, has a lot of maybe mental confusion and confliction with like what if you remember cups being about emotions and gut, really, it's like our feeling. If there's 7 of them and they maybe contradict each other, or maybe there's just a lot of good feelings, a lot of good options, a lot of good doorways. It's going to make us unsure about which one's the best one, and maybe giving the decision some time so that we are in a more informed place that potentially has some of that information which is lurking within the clouds come to the surface a bit more. You know, sometimes like you need to see a decision for a certain amount of time. Some information might come to light further down the line about the people involved with the decision or the opportunity involved with the decision. We might need to even read up some information on the small print that comes with some of those decisions. So that can also be said for if we've got a Four of Cups, for instance, which is kind of missing opportunities altogether. It's someone who's like not very aware of like the fact they're even alive. Like they're just sort of like getting by and not really wanting to make any decisions at all because maybe they're like stuck mentally about something else, about someone or like something. If that comes before an opportunistic card like Ace of Pentacles, Ace of Wands, you know, something that has so much potential, and we'll get into aces in a minute, then you might actually miss the boat altogether. You might not even see that the opportunity is there. You want to make sure good cards, like powerful cards, are sandwiched in between a good narrative, a good story in between. That's important to look for both good and bad cards, in the same way as what's the direct result of that good or bad card. So if you do have a bad card like the Tower, a lot of people probably don't want to see that card. If you're someone who's like, I want a slower year, I'm sick of trying hard and doing too much and burning myself out, and you're getting Tower, the Six of Swords, which is about movement, and then it's the Ten of Wands, Eight of Cups, they're heavy movement cards, then the Tower's not going to be very welcomed by you. I always use the Devil and the Tower in this kind of example because they're just really good demonstrations of that. So if I looked at this and I knew I was hoping to sign a new contract at work in October, the Devil actually is inviting and quite welcoming to me, because the Devil's about obviously being chained down to something, and yes, a lot of people don't want to see the Devil. It's scary and it might be about addictions and things that rule you and don't make you feel empowered, like being chained to your phone or an abusive partner, something that makes you feel little, basically, being alcohol's little bitch. But for some, if they're looking for something within that month that's going to hold them down, the Devil is not always a bad card. And the same with Tower. Let's say I wanted to break a contract in November, I wanted to leave my job in November, or I wanted to move house in November. Yes, it might not be very smoothly. I might get kicked out a little bit earlier than I assumed, or like maybe the moving day isn't as beautiful as I envisioned it in my head. Like, definitely happening, right? However, if I wanted to, or expected to, let's say, start doing some house viewings, I mean, we're literally getting knocked out of a house here, out of a building, settle into a new job. That won't be very welcomed, but it might mean that my current job is going to be well out of my way, and I'm definitely on the move to finding a new one because I've potentially lost or will lose my current. What is the result of a bad card as well? Because sometimes, like, it's one of those things where, and this goes with anything in life, if you focus way too much on one aspect, like a fear that you have, like if I told you not to think about pink elephants, everyone watching this video right now is thinking about pink elephants. So you're basically just feeding into that energy and creating more of it, because now there's maybe a more elaborate picture of pink elephants than there was originally. Everything in life is fleeting. Yes, it's scary to think that nothing here is permanent. We're all going to be gone one day. But at the same time, imagine if everything was permanent. All the bad stuff that happens will stick around forever and ever. So I also think, is there more of a positive note in the next month? Like if I'm reading for someone else, I usually say, November looks a little bit tough, but things will make up for itself by December. It's only, just something you're going to have to just see through and work through. For instance, if I change this around a little bit and I had the Star card after the Tower, I might not even mention to the client that I'm reading that the Tower card is necessarily bad at all. In instances like this, I might just be like, well, there's likely to be actually a very empowering situation for you happening at the end of the year, because this is the card of healing. Like it happens quite quick. Like it's not something that this person's going to be stuck in for a long time, and they're going to feel pretty good about themselves and actually closer to some of their hopes and dreams in consequence to it. So like I wouldn't necessarily worry too much about the warning aspect of the Tower card. If we were to take the High Priestess before the Tower, even more so, like this together becomes a kind of spiritual awakening, some kind of breakthrough moment for this person, liberation of some kind, maybe even an intentional Tower. Sometimes you can be the person who decides on a Tower moment. It doesn't always have to happen to you. A lot of people think that the lightning bolt is the universe giving you a situation, but sometimes you can give yourself that situation if you know it's necessary. So if I've got the High Priestess before the Tower, I've got full confidence in this person being calm, cool, collected, intuitive state in order to navigate that situation in the best way they possibly can, given the circumstances. If there are a few bad cards, on the other hand, and maybe there isn't a nice little treat on the end of them, do those bad cards have anything in common? So if you've got the Devil paired with 5 of Coins, with a dash of 9 of Swords, and heck, let's throw in 7 of Swords in there too. Maybe look them all up in a book or online or whatever, just use a good resource. Highlight, like underline notes, like do they have any descriptive words that are similar to one another? Is there a theme, a connection between the lot? And if so, something that you definitely clearly need to face, and what part of you today in this current situation, because that's all we can really work with truly at the end of the day, what part of you relates to that? What does that feel connected to? Who does that feel connected to in your life? Because you've also got to look at like your surroundings right now, like associated to work or your best friend or your boyfriend or your husband, and maybe journal over how you can navigate that situation differently. This is the thing, we can bend and manipulate the future. Instead of seeing it as rigid, we can actually squash some of that negative stuff down so it doesn't have to leak into like 4 months of the year, and it can just be something that maybe pops up 1 month of the year, or maybe not even at all. Sometimes we can pull forward the good things that we see happening at the end of the year if we want them to happen at the beginning of the year. We can do that by seeing what those good things are and realizing that's something that we obviously want in our reality today, and figuring out what it is we can do in order to get that to come to us quicker. Look, Ace of Cups comes in, the Lover's card comes in, and this person's like, oh my god. Well, what comes previous to that Ace of Cups is what I would say is kind of the opposite. Look how closed off this person is, and they don't look like this. They say, oh, I am open to love, or I'm open to receive. Whereas this hand is literally an offering. It's giving you something to take, to have for the taking. So if this person wants to be open to love and wants to receive love and wants someone new and wants to manifest, then that could potentially happen sooner if they are willing to do what it takes to trust more and to have that availability and that space. Granted, maybe there's a situation here that needs to happen to make space for new opportunities. So potentially there's like somebody else that needed to be let go of. But hey, if they know they've been putting that off anyway and that seems predictable for their year ahead and they expected to see something like that, then why isn't it happening earlier on in the year? Like if it did, then this other stuff they're excited about could happen way before. We are magicians of our own fate. What do we choose to do with the energy that we can play with today? Like, see it as a fun thing. It is supposed to be a fun thing. We are the creators. Check to see if you feel the year looks progressive or regressive. So for instance, if you feel like the year starts off proactive, focus on your goals, progression ensues. So what I mean by that is you might find 2 of Pentacles and then it becomes the 3 of Pentacles later down in the year. And then, oh look, 5 of Pentacles, a progression in maybe finance or work or health. And then things start taking a tumble. So you notice that in comparison to the start of your year, you get distracted and a lot of sword cards come in. So mental health might start getting difficult. Dark cards, cloudy cards. I always say if you've got a lot of cloud cards in your reading, that means you're unable to see reality from like your own perception. But the amount of readings I do for people and they go, yep, that sounds like me. We can't just keep putting us in these boxes and say, that's who I am, that's the way I've always done it, it is what it is. If you want to stay in the same boat your whole life, fine. But if you want to make ambitions and achievements happen, then we have to take some of these labels off ourselves, which are creating the same reality all the time, because we need to hold ourselves accountable for the life that we live in. It is so much easier to point the blame and to say, if he didn't do that thing, I wouldn't have done that thing, and then this wouldn't have happened, and then he wouldn't have reacted that way. And if we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Rule 101, achieving any kind of wish or dream starts from within. If you can't get this set up right, nothing is going to happen. That's why we hear things like, as within, so without. What is going on out here is a direct reflection of what's happening in here. You know, we can waste a lot of energy getting wound up about why someone else chooses to live the life that they do. Maybe they lie all the time to us and we get our heart broken all the time by them, and they make choices that upset us and hurt us and anger us. But how much are we also willing to face the very fact we keep that energy in our lives? We choose to be associated to that energy. There's a part within you that's choosing to keep patterns in. Some of it might be attached to a belief system you have about people you deserve, or the people maybe someone else in your life once told you you deserved. You might have attached someone else's belief to your own, and next thing it's ruling the rest of your life. And while I'm on that note, I've actually always wondered whether that's kind of what the Six of Swords is pointing towards. Those swords, which if you translate that to mean those thoughts, those thinking habits, those belief systems that person holds, is literally like taking them in a new direction. Those thoughts are carrying that person. They are carrying their actions. They are responsible for whether they do or do not make new changes in that person's life for a new future. Look how the waves here are rocky and the waves there are calm, so they're heading towards calmer seas. And it's the same with this one. Knives are cold, harsh truths. That's why a lot of people are scared of them in tarot. They are blunt, they are to the point, and they are matter of fact. So they do cut deep because the truth hurts. And this is a very on the point example of that, of a situation happening against what this person believed to be true. That's what heartbreak is. That's what upset and hurt is, right? When we cry, we shed a belief that was, because we are learning what now is. And so that's going to manifest in a broken heart a lot of the time. And obviously that needs to be healed. And to heal it, you gotta let that emotion out. Like, you can't dam it up. It's just going to manifest in illness or somewhere else in that person's life, like at work or with friends. So the best thing you can do in this situation, and in most sword cards, is address the thoughts that you're having. That's a whole different topic for a whole nother video. But taking a look at some of the months that you know you've got certain things coming up. So if you know you're going to be traveling somewhere, how does that card look? Is it a travel card, or is it like unexpected delay card, such as the Hanged Man? That might be a little bit of a warning to do a bit more research before choosing the spontaneous travel option. We also want to compare the beginning of the year to the end of the year. One of the biggest takeaways you can get from this reading is, how does my year end in comparison to how it starts? Is there more people in the second card or less people? Do they look happier, sadder, darker? Do they seem more isolated at the end of the year or the beginning? Do they have more money at the beginning or end? And maybe reflect on what that means to you. Is that intentional? Is it not? How can that be avoided? What piece of advice, what message can you take from that specific finding? Court cards generally mean someone else is important in the story at that point in your life. So say you have the Page of Wands prop up in April, I would say a younger character who's very energetic and creative and thinks on their feet and not very logical, puppy dog kind of energy. That person is associated to your situation at that time, so you might find that good for you to kind of embody as well, or that they're just important to you at that point in your life for one reason or another. I've pretty much covered most ground. I'm almost done, but I did promise to speak about the aces. For me, they're doorways, and yes, that's exciting to a lot of people, but they are also one of those cards that can very likely be missed altogether. Just because it's a doorway doesn't mean that person's actually going to walk through it. That person obviously has to be there and available to witness it in the first place and therefore choose it because of it only being an ace. Most people think something really great is going to come and it's going to land in my lap and I don't have to do a single thing, but one is only one. That kind of way of thinking is more like a 9 of Pentacles type thing or 10 of Pentacles type thing, where you can literally see what you've created around you and it feels really good and you can just revel in it. But an ace is like, it's a potential, it's not a promise, it's not a guarantee of anything. Maybe it's someone offering you to change roles at work if you want to, or a new client that could potentially really open financial stability further down the line for you. You have to also obviously show up, make that 1 become a 5 and then a 7 and then a 10. That person here has clearly chosen to embrace that new opportunity, because look how much work they're putting into that. They're putting full focus into concentrating on that new opportunity and working their way up. It's not just letting it land in their lap and be like, we'll see. If good things come easy, then everyone would have them. So I'm going to do the thing that not everybody would do, which is hard work, dedication. So in the same way you would look for and hope for a reading with lots of cups in if you were looking for love, you really want to see an Ace of Cups. Yes, that could be a person, or it could just be an opportunity for you to be deep in your feels for some reason. Like you might be really connected to your emotions at that time. You might need to be. Maybe if it comes with the Tower card after it, you shouldn't be. And actually you should protect your feelings, because potentially going down that route ends up chaotic. It depends how you interpret the reading. That's the kind of final message I want to give with this reading. Everything that I can say you can throw in the bin if you want to, because the biggest thing you're going to take from this is how you feel about the reading. Take that as an important message, even if they seem really colourful and bright and everything seems on the surface great. Does that for some reason translate negatively to you? Perhaps it's showy and it's like performative happiness and not deep fulfillment and contentment. I've been filming for way too long, so I'm going to end this here. I really hope that this gave you some knowledge and insight, and you're now a little bit more excited to pull a 13 card reading. Let me know how you go. If you've got any questions about the cards that have fallen in certain positions, ask me in the comments. I'm happy to interpret in my own little way. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. I am on social media such as Instagram and Facebook. I have a tarot Instagram and Facebook, but also a nincompoop Instagram and Facebook. All our info is down there. Take your pick, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.